All right, everyone. Welcome back to the show. My name is Mo, and I am super excited to get this session started. I really don't know how it's gonna be like, but if I can take a stab at a guess, venture a guess, it's gonna be quite stimulating, and I'm looking forward to learning a lot for myself and also to help support my single friends as well. So to do justice to this discussion on singlehood and some of these issues that we hear around grapevine, I have three wonderful people. Our fourth panelist couldn't be here anymore due to some unavoidable circumstances. And so to do justice to this topic, I have three amazing panelists today, and I will introduce them in no order of importance or anything like that. And so the first person I'd like to introduce is Mujirade Beppo. You have heard her story on the podcast. If you follow the podcast a lot, she came on the four panels that we had, and the four part episode. She was one of the, I think, the second one we did on the female perspective, what it means to be single, and how do you like find your joy despite all of the difficulties. She describes herself as a God lover with a unique and special personality, and I can attest to that. She also happens to be my plantain supplier. She makes indigenous dry products, and she's so good. As a matter of fact, her company Nigeria Day Diadem clocked 10 years. So congrats on that. So she's the CEO of that company. It's a catering outfit specialized in the production of indigenous dry snacks like plantain chips, which I love. I've been eating her plantain chips for 10 years. She also enjoys telling edifying stories and is passionate about seeing families well established with priorities set right. For fun, she likes to sing, she likes to travel, and she also likes to dance. All right, that is Mujirade. Thank you for that, Mujirade. And the very next person I'd like to introduce is Akin Akinawa. I feel like Aki, every time he comes on the show from now, I should start paying him a royalty fee because every time I call on this wonderful guy, he's always saying yes. And I know he's super busy. Aki he has so many interests. So for him to say yes and be on the show and show up, I don't take that for granted. So I want to say thank you so much, Akin. He's popularly known as AK, and he's a technocrat. He's a critical thinker. He loves gaming. He describes himself as a friend with a reputation for being an architect of individual and organizational positive change. He earned his bachelor's degree with honors in computer science from Cameron University here in Oklahoma and has served as a leader in various capacities. He also recently got his master's degree. Congrats on that in management of information systems at the University of Houston in Texas. And he owns his independent IT consulting business called Digital Designs and Engineering. In his spare time, he's a teacher, he's a pianist, and he's a poet. So everyone join me welcoming Akin to the podcast. Why show? And last but definitely not the least is my friend who if you follow my WhatsApp stories, I call her one of my anti-fans, even though she thinks she's like one of my fans, but I WhatsApp she's an anti-fan. Yinka, the famous Yinka. Yinka say I made you famous. She's Olayinka Jalasho. She's a pharmacist with 12 years progressive practical experience, and she's been working in the development and healthcare sector in several areas, including pharmaceutical research, supply chain management, health system strengthening, and so much stuff. She's an advocate for results, and she's super result oriented. She didn't put this there, but she loves fish. She's a seafood lover. And I call her fish, I call her crab, I call her many names, but we go a long way. We're college friends, and so really, it's really wonderful, and I don't take it for granted to have you three amazing people on the show today. All right, so let's just get started. Talking about the big topic today, which is really about singlehood, and I'd like to just start by asking how you guys are doing with this whole singlehood. Like, I know, for example, Akin, most of you here, like, I would say that I know that you are well established in your professions and you seem to make life happen. But I like to imagine that maybe once in a while, it probably gets to you like, okay, why am I so single and all that? But I'm just curious to know, how's it been like for you and how are you doing today? I'm going to start with, and if you can keep our answers really short, that would be very helpful because we have a lot of questions. I'll start with Nika. How are you doing today and how has it been like being single?
Well, okay. First, I'm good. Yeah, I still love fish, anyways. Uh, but single, right? So I'd say after a while, over the years, I've gotten comfortable. I've gotten to that point where I'm comfortable with myself. Once upon a time, there was the pressure of family or friends. You're wondering, okay, when is it going to happen? And then at some point, I just realized I'm at peace with myself. And then I'm not like someone around me is putting me under pressure. I move away and not just submit myself to that kind of pressure. So so I'd say I've gotten to that point where I'm balanced, and I think I'm getting too comfortable with myself. I'm at that point. So I need to constantly remind myself, okay, you still want to do this, so you need to get out there. You need to, give it a shot again, at least once in a while, and see how it goes. Yeah. So that's where I'm at.
Thank you for that candid response. Akin, how about you? I know we've talked about yours on the show, but if you could just reiterate what you said on the show where you had that episode.
Well, it's been great. It's been great. I totally can relate with what she just mentioned about there's that point where you start getting very comfortable by being by yourself, and I think it's more of a factor of the more you live life and you experience life, the more you get to become very specific about who you are and what it is that you want. And so it just kind of like helps with dealing with all of the emotional sinusoidal situations that people usually go through in your earlier years. My single life has been pretty much great, but I've been really, really busy, as you earlier pointed out. And everyone knows me to be a really busy guy. And but I just realized, thanks to some serious soul searching and therapy, that my busyness is pretty much more of a defense mechanism that I kind of like set up, to distract me from all of the perils of that quest for intimacy and the struggle to maintain love. So pretty much just being really busy and doing the best I can, and then see what happens after that.
So I definitely see a similarity in your response and Yinka's response. But let's hear what Jirade has to say about this.
I can totally relate with Inka. And once again, thanks for having me on the show again. At a point, like she said, I was pressured 7, and at a point, I had to tap myself and say, "You still want to do this thing, so don't give up on getting married." Because I was totally comfortable with myself, as in life. I was just enjoying myself and rolling with my work. Presently, I'm totally busy. I couldn't even have time to prepare for this show the way I really wanted to, as in I worked till I checked 8 to 5. I had to just rush and get ready for the show. I'm totally busy. So I'm fine. I'm very fine. But there are some basic things that I don't miss per day to get myself together. There are some things I don't joke with every day, my daily routine. I'm very well, I'm fine. Thank you.
Well, I can say that on a different level, even though it's a little bit different. I relate with that aspect of keeping your mind busy. And so, as you know, we've been trying to, have a kid for like many years now. And one of the things that I really do is I make sure, because I find that when I have a lot of downtime, I tend to, navigate and focus on myself a lot. And that might make me really sad and depressed. And I start thinking about things I don't have. So I keep going busy. But I know that the downside of please mute yourself if you're not on the panel. Let me just go ahead and start muting people. The downside of that is that you just all you just know is just to keep being busy. So I guess my question to any of you guys would be this: how do you draw that line between appearing you have everything, which I think might send a message like, oh, maybe she doesn't even need to be in a relationship, or maybe he doesn't need to be in a relationship. how do we strike that balance between what, whatever our hands find doing it well, but not creating like this, I guess, impression that we have it all.
Okay, let me take a stab at it.
Mm,
So there's this thing.
okay. Can I?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. All right.
Yeah, go ahead, Nika. Akin has. Hello? Okay. While she's still trying to do that, Aki,
Okay. All right
okay.
then.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, no problem.
No,
Yeah. So
Nika can go ahead.
I was
Okay.
gonna say, okay, thank you. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead.
All
Sorry.
right. So I just want to just mention something that happened. All right, something happened like a while back. I was basically sitting minding my business like I usually do. And someone came up to me and said, "Oh, Inka, I heard you're very unavailable. Like you're very hard to talk to." And I'm like, "You're sitting here talking to me. So who told you I'm unavailable?" I'm not responsible for what people think, because people just tend to look at you and see, "Oh, she has all of these things going on. She's busy. She does this. She does that. So she really won't have my time." But they don't make that effort to ask you, "Oh, hi, would you like to go out for a drink of water? Just, have some water." They don't make that attempt. They just assume, "Oh, she's so busy. She's not gonna have time for me." Don't make that assumption. I try to. I'm not going to put a tag on my forehead and say, "Oh, I'm available." Yeah, but you could ask me, and then I would. It's your right to ask, and then my right to say yes or no. Let you know if I'm available or reschedule, whatever it is. But I think the main mistake most people make is that not asking or just assuming on behalf of the other person. And I don't think that's fair, really. Was I talking to myself?
I
Hello.
definitely, I can hear you. I definitely relate to what you're saying as far as, ask me. But if I were to play devil's advocate, won't the onus of you presenting yourself as available mean like trying to make sure that you're always, on top of a game as far as, having this, I don't know, courage of, "Oh, I'm available," without putting the stuff on your forehead. But like the fact that people will definitely assume what they want to assume. But do you think that perhaps sometimes we send out vibes that might be conflicting to the kind of message we're trying to send?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear what
I
Akin has to say. Maybe Akin can. I don't mean to put you on the spot. I'm just trying to think, on both sides.
No, you're fine. You're very fine. You're very fine. Okay, so there's this thing. I wanted to just put this out there because it was a thought when you first started with that thought, was the fact that, honestly, I've realized that whenever people ask other people like, "How are you?" we tend to try to like deflect from the real state of how we really are by saying what we're really doing. So when someone asks you how you're doing, you find out that people tend to want to respond with what they're doing without really addressing how they're really doing in this case. But then to answer about the question about like, how do we do from a guy's point of view, there are also assumptions. So I really, really subscribe to what Yinka mentioned. Piggybacking on you again, I'm so sorry. So, but there is the fact that everyone tends to make assumptions, sometimes based on their internal projections of what they expect to happen, rather than taking the shot of what it is that should happen. Now, from a guy's perspective, it's kind of different because the expectation is that the guy is going to come and say something to the lady and that kind of stuff. And most of the time, I'm usually so busy that I tend to not do that. but that tends to happen. But for me, what I do is I don't know what it's like for girls, but for guys, I'm very okay with telling people that I'm single and I'm looking for somebody. I'm very open with that. Like when people approach me, and if they if we manage to have a conversation that seems to work out, I'll say, yeah, I'm a single guy. I will say it somewhere in the statement. I'm a single guy. I am looking for a wife, not a girlfriend. And I just put it out there. I just put it out there. Shameless plug, call it whatever you want. But I just put it out there because, I mean, I can, think of whatever you want to think. And it's just going to be very different for guys and girls. But, I can't really speak for girls, but, most of the time girls feel that they should be the ones to be approached to. And I know that we may probably get to this at some time later on, but, the dynamics of how to play all of that, it can be very, very can sip into gray areas really, really fast.
So I guess thank you so much for that, Kim. By the way. I guess the summary of this point is like you can't help what kind of, I guess, the way you look or the way people want to assume. People always have their assumptions about you. It's why we're all entitled to that opinion. But borrowing a leaf from what Akin said is to be very open about what we want. Like, hey, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm actually looking, I'm looking to be in a relationship, or I'm looking for a guy right now. However you can say that. I know sometimes, depending on just our personality type, we might not be able to be bold enough, but whatever we can do in our carriage, in the way we relate, in the way we talk. I mean, and I'm going to draw a lot of parallels with my experiences, not with dating, but with trying to, get pregnant, because I still feel like it's still a need that is similar to what your needs are. It still comes down to what you really want and aspiring towards. Is that in my business, sometimes I always realize that, okay, do I still really want a kid? Because I've done so much that sometimes I forget about, that I'm trying to have a baby, because I feel like sometimes the way to not think about what I don't have. But that can also create a lot of conflicting messages, because I've had friends, look at me like, are you still even praying about this? I'm like, well, actually, no, now that I think about it. But I guess the crux of the matter here is, don't be ashamed to keep praying for what you want and keep positioning yourself to receive what you want. Now, the next question I would like to ask you guys is this, and Girardi has done a wonderful job. If you are yet to go listen to that episode, go do that. I think it says a lot about someone if you're able to realize that, so take for example, my younger sister is getting married, and I really wish it was me. But on the day of the wedding, I felt this pang of jealousy and I had to walk through it. And at the end of the day, she just talked to her sister about it. And I think having those conversations is what some of us don't do. We think of jealousy as something that is bad enough to experience, but I don't think it's necessarily is a bad emotion. It's what we do with the emotion that really matters. So I'm curious to know, watching your friends or your siblings, if you guys have younger siblings who might have been married, or friends who are married, like I always say, I see my friends' kids now, a lot of them are actually entering high school, and I'm like, oh my gosh, look at me here. But how do you cope with, just that feeling of why not me? Like, how come everybody's having all of this? Why hasn't it happened for me yet?
Akin, do you want to go first this time? Or do you ready?
I think you should go.
I haven't said much, so let
Okay, Girardi, don't say too much, because you've already done your episode on that. Because I want, but you can just summarize what you said.
Oh yeah,
but you can just summarize what you said in the episode. I don't want her to repeat herself many more times. Girardi, are you there? Oh, okay. Maybe Akin can go.
Okay. Well, for me, as far as family is concerned, I'm lucky. I'm the last of three boys. So all my siblings are.
You're so doubly privileged. You're a guy, and then you're the last one. Why do you have you on this show?
Let me just blow my trumpet right here. Let me just blow my trumpet right here all by myself. So I'm the last of three boys. One, I'm from a family that everybody's independent. Nobody really cares about that. We just wanted to have a good life, bro. And I'm blessed with a family that has not taken my case beyond what it should be. They all realize the importance of the decision about finding a partner, life partner. And they've allowed me the relative freedom, well, probably as a guy, to take as much time as roll your eyes all you want. You can roll your eyes all you want. They've given me all of the relative freedom to have much time as I need. Now, that being said, doesn't, excuse me from the responsibility of doing this. But then again, that question of responsibility of doing it at a specific time frame is also relative to, like, some good conversation about social expectations, right? But then for friends, now that's a little bit different, because sometimes, you've had, like, people who are younger than you, people that you've mentored, people who've mentored you, or you were in the same class as colleagues, go on forward and do this. And sometimes I'll be vulnerable. I'm a big advocacy for men for vulnerability. And I will tell you that, sometimes I ask myself, okay, is it that I lack the courage to go ahead and say, okay, madam, this is you. All right, let's do this. And I don't think, at first I used to ask myself that question, but now I've gotten so much better in realizing that it's just about, there's some things in life that you just want to take a little bit more seriously than some other decisions. Some things can be rushed, some can't. And for me, this is one particular thing that I will, I'll prefer being too slow than being too fast dealing with this thing. I think I borrowed that statement from, I think it was Kenneth Hagin. He said, there's some things in life, it's better to be too slow than to be too fast. Because at least when you are too slow, you can see God ahead, make a turn. But when you're too fast, you don't know where you're going to next. So that's kind of
Wow.
like,
Lucky you, Akin, that's all I can say, because not many people have
Mm.
that privilege on all sides. It's one thing to have the internal pressure, but there's a lot externally that, and that those are things that are beyond your control. If it's not siblings getting married, it's parents, sending you WhatsApp prayer points, or sending you, to go talk to this person or meet this person. They might even think you're being too picky and things like that. Yinka, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, okay. So like my younger brother is married with a son. And when that was about to happen, I had to have a discussion with myself and with him. And I told him, I needed to let him know that I was fine, because after I had a discussion with myself, I realized I was actually fine with it. Like I wouldn't say I was jealous. I was at that point where I realized it's not happening for me. I'm not going to hold him back. I'm not going to say because I'm older, I need to get married first. So everybody has to wait. I'm the first of 5. And so I had to have that discussion with him. And I told him, say, I give you my blessings. I need you to go ahead. I need you to, I need you to, I give you my blessings. I need you to just go ahead and have a good life. So my turn is coming. And right now it's your turn. Enjoy. So I got to that point where I had to have that conversation with him. Then the other bit is, having much younger people getting married. I just feel like, okay, God, it's their turn. Mine is coming very soon. I don't know what your plans are for this one, but I know mine is coming. So I've gotten past that phase. So when I was in like my 20s, I used to feel like, oh my God, when is it going to happen? Because I always thought that by 24, I'll be married, or 25, I'm getting fresh out of school. And that didn't happen. So this is how many years down the line, it still hasn't happened. So I'm just at that point where then I used to feel like, oh my God, when I'll be under so much pressure. But like I said earlier, I've gotten way past that. I'm at that point where I'm just, okay, you're getting married, congratulations. If I have something to give you, I give to you. If I can attend, I attend. We're all fine. Everything is nice with the world. And we move on. Yeah. So that's how I
Wow.
do.
Wow. Well, you're very brave. I don't know. I don't even know how to say about that, because I definitely see that. Um, I guess I won't say contentment, but knowing that it's like just giving your brother that blessing. And I don't know why I'm calling it a blessing, but the fact that you're able to have that conversation to even let him know, because we know as Nigerians that there's a customary order of things, right? The older ones should get
Yeah.
married before the younger ones, even though these days nobody really cares. But the fact that you're able to have that
Yes.
conversation with him, I think it really speaks, greatly of the kind of person you are. And Majority, I know you've talked about this extensively on the show, and I love the responses you gave, like something about your joy and nothing killing your joy. You were very deliberate about that. But can you just, for those that haven't listened to that episode you did on the show, just talk a little bit about how you cope with, overcoming jealousy, especially when your younger sister got married.
All right. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So when she was preparing for the wedding, I felt this is a particular day we went for a meeting, and I was like, this is supposed to be me. That kind of conversation going through your heart, that I had to rush to the kitchen of one of my other sisters to talk to myself. That this feeling, okay, it's a time, I had to talk to myself. Then I went back. That was before I even had a conversation with her. But it was when I prayed about it, of course, and I had to have that conversation with her about how I felt and everything. So after that, I felt much better. And it was even outsiders. They were like, don't worry, sometimes something may not be going through your heart and people will feel it is going through your heart. Sister Muji, don't worry, your time is coming. That can be annoying too sometimes, like pity, encouraging words, and it may not really, sit well with one at that particular time. So having that kind of conversation with her made me feel better, and I gave my best to the wedding, as in I gave my best and I enjoyed it. So I didn't deny the feeling. I came to terms that, okay, this is how I felt. Like, okay, it's supposed to be me and it's not happening, this, that. I guess that was because she was staying with me. My immediate elder brother, in fact, his own clock 11 to the 11 years, and I'm happy. In fact, I didn't have any feeling, I didn't have any funny feeling towards that. I gave my best to us. I was even still in school, So we are brought up loving one another. And when I had that kind of feeling at the first time, it was strange that how could this go through your heart and everything? But I thank God for the way I handled it and everything went well. I didn't mean I kept it to myself. If I had kept it to myself, it could have been worse. If I didn't have that kind of conversation with her, I think it wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have gone the way it went at the end of the day. But I'm happy I communicated with her and I was able to give my best to the wedding ceremony.
Wow. And she definitely gave us the condensed version. Thank you for that, moderator. First, she gave us the condensed version. If you want to hear the full breadth of it, just go catch up on the episode she did, recently on the show, the More Sibyl podcast. And for those that are joining us, thank you once again. If you have questions, put them in the chat box. We'd like to take your questions as well. Now, the next question I have for the panelists is this. I should say that a lot of what I'm going to say, I don't necessarily take them as facts, but just experiences, either by what I've watched or listened to or from my life. Is so that condensed experiences. And so, but I still want to explore that here. I think that for most women, we're not really taught how to prepare for marriage. And I feel like sometimes we have this mentality like, oh, I'm the best thing that can happen to a man. Anyone that finds me will find me. Sharp contrast to a man that is always maybe trusting in the realms of responsibility, where they have to, for a man to even say they want to marry somebody, they have to think of the financial implications. Am I going to be able to sustain this? How many kids are we going to have? What kind of job? Like, I feel like men are on a cerebral level, they know what it takes to say they want to marry somebody, as far as I guess getting ready for marriage. But I think beyond the, good feeling of, I'm gonna be a wife, I'm gonna be a mom, women, we don't really have too much preparation in that area. So I'm curious to know what you guys think about this school of thought about how, despite all of those two things I just said, the contrast between men and women, women just feel women are not, how I put this, like women are not putting in their end of the bargain when it comes to like looking for the right man, but they come with this long list of he must be this, he must be that, he must be this, without having to even think about what are you bringing beyond just let me just say it in this way, good looks and how you look and all that. I don't know if that question makes sense, but you like contrast to how a man has to be ready for marriage as far as the responsibilities. Do you think that we've been done a huge disservice as women in preparing for marriage at the expense of the men? And I would like maybe Gerard or Nika to answer this because it's targeted to the females.
Okay. I would say compared to men, we, especially at a younger age, I guess a lot of preparation are not in place, and when I got to a certain age, I asked myself, okay, if you are going for an examination, you read and you pass. Business and marriage, it's as if we feel, when it's time, we roll. No, we have to prepare. So I had to consciously start preparing, start thinking. But generally, I can say most women, especially at maybe 20s, early 20s and later, may not really give details to preparing for, for homes, for managing homes, for marriage as much as men, which should be looked into as we should not just take it with levity, and we should see it as an examination, because to me, marriage is not an achievement. It's work. Marriage is responsibility. It's more than having sex. It's more than the romantic aspect. But many at times we think more of the romantic aspect, especially if you have kept yourself for longer, But marriage is responsibility and it's work. So it's good to consciously prepare for it, more than thinking about the rosy aspect, the romantic aspect. We should prepare for it consciously, deliberately, intentionally. I think that's what I want to say about that.
Thank you for that, Roti. Yes, I agree with you. It's two things you said that I think we should just rehash is it's definitely not an achievement. Whether you're Mrs. or whatever appellation you have before your name, that's not an achievement. And it takes a lot of work to be in a marriage. It takes a lot of commitment. It's so many things to come at you. And trust me, it's a lot of work. And it's very humbling to hear you reiterate that. Inka, you wanted to add something to the conversation. Inka?
Yeah. So what I wanted to add was, can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay. So I think preparation for marriage is like it's on different sides. So when it comes to there's the generation that have been taught how to keep a home. You prepare the meals, you clean the house. But then the other aspects of marriage, the emotional aspects, the spiritual aspects, how to relate with your in-laws and all of that. Some of those things are not really taught. So it's either people pick it up from the internet, or they pick it up from movies, or they pick it up from their neighbors or whoever it is that, is serving as the current role model at that point. So I know that most of our parents focused on, keep the house. It's a woman's place to keep the house. It's a woman's place to do A, B, C, D, E. But now roles are, while that role is there, and now, the lines are a bit blurred because some of the men now, do some of these things. It's the spiritual aspect, preparing emotionally, knowing that, like Jody said, it's a lot of work. Like, it's not going to be all nice and dandy every step of the way. There's going to be a lot of work. There's a communication aspect of things, and a lot of other things. So I think there's some place, right? There's a place for, not just teaching a woman to keep a home, but teaching her all the other things that go along with being a wife and a mother, and a good companion to her husband, actually. So that there's still that place, and that gap is still there.
Yeah, I so agree with you. There's definitely that disservice we do for women. And Adiodat also added this on the comments. She said, they are taught last minute on the day of the wedding. You're so overwhelmed, you can't remember. So let me just say along that line, I hate when you go for weddings and there's like a 2 hour long sermon on, wife or baby. I'm like, at this last minute, is it not too late to be telling them this? They don't know this already. I agree with you. I think the lesson here is that both sides need to be well prepared. And I feel like men, because they're always seen typically as the ones that are financially responsible for, like the man is seen as the head, right? Go out and slay the lion and bring the bacon. But women, I feel like we haven't really been taught. And also, I think there's some other areas that men might be lacking in, that there definitely needs to be a gap that needs to be filled. So this next question, I'm going to get a little bit personal with you guys, but let me just say then I'll let Akin answer first, and if any of the other parents want to add. So Akin, this question is for you. The older I get, or the longer I stay in my marriage, I guess, the more I realized that, my goodness, like, it was very brave of my husband to have, asked me to marry him in the first place. Because I realized that in the early years of my marriage, I had so much masculine energy. So I have this theory that we're born with both feminine and masculine energy. And if you know me, you know I like to get things done. And I think that's a part of my masculine. I'm not saying feminine energy doesn't help, but there's a drive I have that I know it's driven from my masculine side, right? And it works. It's made me very successful at what I do. But the idea is when you get home, just hang your boots and just come home and be more feminine, because your husband doesn't want to be, related to the masculine part of you, right? And there was always an issue with that because I didn't even know I was exuding all of this. And the more I realized that, oh my goodness, like, what is wrong with you? Like things like that. And no one ever really told me that. I had to, I mean, even if they did, they didn't say it in those words. But I'm glad I'm in a place where I'm able to realize it. I don't show myself down for it, but I also realize that, okay, this is what you're exuding. It works in your workplace, but when you come home, you cannot, be this way. So my question is this, in this generation of wokeness and alpha females, and let's just throw some of these labels around, and extreme, feminism practice, it's common to really see these clashes between, men and women. What would you say? What are your thoughts about, masculinity as far as being overtly expressed in females? And what do you think as a man? What feelings go to your mind, or how would you what would you speak to the appropriateness of having, or inappropriateness in this way of having too much masculine energy exuded in your female counterparts when you're in a relationship with them? Do you think it's something that is needed or not needed, or maybe a little bit half and half like coffee?
Half and half like coffee. Okay, that's a good question. Concerning and y- we're in very different times from where we've been, and society, thanks to conversations like this, research, and a lot of like people coming out and stating their experiences, thanks to the evolution of technology and social media, society has become progressive, if you want to put it that way. um, but with that progression also comes with its own issues as well. So concerning that issue of masculinity, like you correctly mentioned, um, now I'm not really into the biological sciences, but I do know that people are shaped by their experiences, and well, women also have their own um, levels of hormones that can allow them to exuberate masculine traits, just like men also have things that can also make them exuberate like feminine traits as well. There's also the social and the environmental perspective. Like when you are a girl that's grown up around men, a lot of men, there is a high tendency that for you to feel among with the environment that you're in, you might have to start thinking like a guy. But when it comes into marriage, I think it depends on the guy in question. I don't think it's a problem, to be honest with you, about a woman being a little bit of a go-getter and doing all of these things that are supposed to be for men. But the thing is, men prefer to have, I mentioned this in our last conversation, that what men are looking for is respect. What men are looking for is respect. Just like what women are looking for, or what I think, and please, any of the ladies, feel free to let me know if I'm wrong, is security. Men want respect. So whenever a man goes for a woman, what he wants is a woman that would be able to respect him. So if she's also portraying like the instrumental traits that seems to create this idea that that you are not giving him the right to to be the husband of the family, then he's going to have an issue with it. And I think that's where that whole psychology of a woman needs to be a specific way comes from, because it comes from the fact that, inherently men just have this wants and desire to be to be on top of things. And I mentioned this before, that there is a difference between marrying a man and being a husband. And the idea is that being a husband is a responsibility. So if a man feels that he should have that responsibility, the inherent ideology is that, because I have that responsibility to cater for my family and to be this, there is some level of respect that, should be attributed to me. And as a result, the general perception is that if a woman has to be, has to put herself in a specific position that allows him to feel that way. I don't really subscribe to that thought, because a man who is whole in himself would be able to understand the woman that he is dealing with, and then they can both negotiate with what it is that, about her personality index, about all of the things about her, that make her what she is. And of course, if the man really loves her for who she is, which we want to believe that the man obviously must have dated her for a while to understand the kind of woman that she is before he went on and married her. If he does love her for who she is, then of course, then you can both, because life is a journey, right? We are who we are now. And in the next 10 years, our experiences shape and define us. So, and men have the inherent ability to train themselves to become whatever that they want to be. No other creature on the face of this planet in this realm has the ability to do that. So I believe that with these kind of conversations, it kind of like also helps to strengthen the marriage itself, because okay, yeah, this is what you were doing before, this is what you're doing, but for me, this is what works for me. That kind of communication, I feel, is necessary. And then that comes with openness and willingness to actually compromise on values that help the marriage work in which way it is. And these are things I feel that people should really be talking about prior to when they get married than when they are inside the marriage itself. So that's my thought.
Thank you for that. I just want to say, I want to clarify that by all means, if you're female, you have a lot of masculine energy. I'm not saying it's something you should be ashamed about. However, it drives you to go do things and create. I believe that is something God has put in you. So don't be ashamed about it. But like with everything, it needs to be a balance. So me saying, being a go-getter, there's nothing wrong with that. But make sure that, the person you're hooked to, like your husband, you give him that respect, you give him that accord that he needs. And so I put myself on the slab by talking about when I was doing an overexpression of my masculine energy. You don't need two alpha males in the house. It doesn't make for a very copacetic relationship. So I wanted to just make that clarification. And so thanks for that, Akin. I really to retrace your points, communication, because the person you're married to is who you really, really need to, I guess I say, impress in a way. And people might say things about you, but as long as you and your spouse, you're good, you're tight, you have that communication going, and that's all that really matters. Whatever everybody else says, it's left to them. Now, this question is for Yinka and Mojurade. I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit. I'm curious to know if you've had any issues where you're in a relationship but the guy would not commit. And at what stage did you decide, what, I don't want to be Lord of the Ring or Lady of the Ring. I'm out myself. Like, what are some of the signs you see? And I'm going to come back to Aki, and the flip question for Aki. So get ready is, why do you think men are so hard? Why do they find it hard to commit? Like, you hear of cases where a man is in a relationship with a woman for 14 years. Like, what the heck, man? Like, I feel like that's too long. If your goal is not to marry, then that's fine. But for a lot of these people that I talk to, you find that the girl especially wants to get married, but the man is just, not, putting out. So first gonna talk to ask Moji and Yinka to talk about a time they were in a relationship where they felt like the guy was not committing. And then asking your question would be, why don't you guys like committing to things? And why do you wanna, keep binding women with your rings? Yeah, 14 years is a long time. That's a whole kid right there and a half. All right, Yinka or Moji. I think I want to hear from Moji and then Yinka and then Aki in that order.
Okay.
All right. I've not been in any relationship for that long. Of course, I've had friends, but the issue I had personally is age. The two guys I really liked and were friends for, and at that point, age was a major issue for me. I didn't want to marry someone that I'm older than. So we knew we had something for one another. We talked about it and we just moved on. Then, okay, like 2-3 relationships after then, it wasn't even up to a year. About the drive of the particular guy, like 2 instances, I couldn't cope with the drive, as in the level of their drive. So I opted out, you know. So I guess I've been the one opting out majorly in most of the relationship. And at the point I had to ask myself, is there anything wrong with you? I was still telling someone 2 days ago, that see, if I wanted to be married to stay in status, I would have been married and I will have given birth to all my children. But at this point, I just don't want to get married out of pressure or because, okay, just to feel good about it. I must know what I'm doing, you know. So that's what I want to say about that.
Thank you for that. Yinka?
Yeah. So while Moji was talking, I think I prefer to call her Jiradi. So while Jiradi was talking, I like the name. I just, my mind just went back to like 2 relationships. So there was this one where I think we dated for about 2 to 3 years, and you know, I just knew that there was something wrong. Like, you know how you know there's something wrong, but I couldn't put a finger on it. And then when it got to the time where, you know, he had been talking to my mom, you know, they had been having that conversation. And he came back and said, well, you know, he's been talking to my mom. They've been talking about A, B, C, D, E. But you know, he can't go ahead because he's still seeing his ex. So that ended it. Yeah, roll your eyes. I mean, that was a crazy time for me. I mean, it was so crazy. Then the second one was with a much older guy. It was about 12 years older, very calm, you know, it was a peaceful relationship. And you know, we had been talking, and then he got to a point where he said he had cold feet. And I didn't understand where the cold feet was coming from, because we talked about it, and you know, he said he had cold feet. He wasn't sure he was going to be able to do it right. And I told him, yeah, I understand. Like, I mean, for me, I'd rather have the truth than have you lie to me. So you telling me that you know, that you have cold feet, I mean, I'm very fine with that. I didn't have a problem. So those were the 2 times that I can remember. Yeah.
Wow, that was very, I mean, when I rolled my eyes, I was just in shock for you, because seeing your ex at the same time, let's be good people, okay? Generally across board. No two timing, except your 2 time between chocolate and vanilla. That's only 2 timing allowed ever. Akin, sorry you have to be the brunt of all of this. But I don't want to put you in a very tough spot, but if you can just help us understand
No.
the commitment phobia, and then when should a woman, like, you know, what's your threshold for, I don't think this guy is really serious about you, from your perspective as a man, that is.
Okay. Let's start with the first one. About and I'm going to try to be as candid as possible, because yours truly has been guilty of all of the entire spectrum. Yeah, hey.
It's okay. We forgive you.
I've been guilty of the entire spectrum. So I'm gonna just say like it is. I'm gonna say like it is. There are a lot of reasons why men don't commit. Plenty, there are plenty. But I'm gonna see if I can just touch a few of them, maybe 3 or 4. First off is sometimes many guys are not. Life is in phases, and people grow. And as people grow, there is the stage for a man where the man is just testing out to see what it is that he likes. He has not come into the full fruition of what he wants. And you know, at that phase, he's not really ready for the commitment. But then he markets himself as if he is, because he's not very sure. Now, that ties back to something, you know, that we had mentioned before, about the fact that many women are kind of like taught about becoming a wife, yeah, taught about being a wife, but not becoming one. And men usually are not even taught to be how to be a man. That's if the father is even around to be there to tell the person this is, this is what it means to be a guy. Many guys really don't. Their fathers are usually missing in action, either emotionally or even physically in many cases. So many boys have to grow and figure things out themselves, figure what they like, figure where their boundaries are, figure out and all these things. And as a result of that, they may not be ready for that commitment, but then they want to reap the benefits of the commitments. And that's one reason. So one other reason, of course, is the social constructed order. It is believed that, girls want a guy that has a house, has a car. So many progressive minded individuals will say that, if like, okay, look, I want to talk to Yinka, for example. Yinka is a pharmacist. Bruh, you can't just come with an OND, she's going to probably like shoot you down, and nobody wants to feel that way. So there is just already that expectation, which is very, very, I think is a very wrong mindset from the very get-go, and it just shows a lack of confidence, internal confidence in the person's self. So most of the time, sometimes people and guys enter some sort of relationships and they just feel that they've not made enough money, or they've not reached that state where they feel that they can go ahead and bring somebody into their life and stuff like that. So many a times when they reach in that situation, they back off or they start having second guesses. Another issue is, and this is, I think, the biggest one in my opinion, is the lack of honesty. Let's just call it that it is. Men have, usually whenever a guy is dating a girl, and if he really wants her, he will know. He will know. If she checks most of the boxes that makes him say green lights, he will know. He will know. So if the guy doesn't give the green lights from a very, very, like, give it like a month, 2 months, he doesn't give the green light, something is missing. And he knows it's either internal, based on something he's dealing with. Maybe he's not fully separated from an older relationship that he would like to get separated on, which is of course going to show other issues that he's dealing with. Or it could be an internal issue about, maybe he's not very sure about something about the girl, such like her medical history, or something like maybe her family issues. Believe it or not, guys also look at that kind of thing, because the idea is that when you marry a person, you marry her family, right? And if the person doesn't feel confident about some of the other parameters that the girl is bringing to the table, the guy, at least a forward-thinking guy, is going to most likely analyze it and say, I'm not very sure if this is really, really going to work for me. And he's not going to tell her. That's the funny thing. Many times, guys will just keep this to themselves. They won't say anything, and they'll just be pretending like, something's wrong and all that kind of thing. And then they start giving flimsy excuses when they're not very sure. Whenever they are in that state, most of the time, they're always looking for other possible preferred options, so that when they now find an option that probably clicks better than the former option, then they let go of the former option and move on to the next one. So that's kind of like some of these strategies that people do. Why I feel it's just a massive lack of honesty, to be honest with you. I think it's a massive. Some of these issues of lack of honesty can also be external. There are some cases where a guy likes a specific girl, but the mother doesn't like him. And if the guy is a mommy's boy, he's going to probably have to choose between the love of his mom versus the love of the woman that he's dating with. And there are guys that actually go through that kind of thing. And some of these internal and external factors kind of like show where the guy is, I think, in totality, as a mature individual of who he is and what it is that he wants. Many men don't really know what they want, and they are still growing into it. And then as they keep going through some of these experiences, it helps refine that idea. That is assuming that the guy in question even wants to be mature, because there's some people that choose for themselves that, I only have one life. I just want to, do as much as I can do and stuff like that. But then all of these are just kind of like factors to show the level of maturity that the individual himself has reached or has allowed himself to reach to get to that phase. Then concerning the second question about where should the lady call it quits, I think the first, what I would, if I had a sister, I don't have any sisters, but if I had a sister and she asked me that question, I think the first thing I'm just going to do is play the honesty card as early as possible. Ask the guy, bruh, tell us what the situation is. If the guy cannot be honest with you from the get-go now, the probability that he's going to be honest with you on the long haul when you're married is probably going to be pretty low as well. So, I think playing the honesty card from the beginning, when you observe that there are some levels of inconsistency, play the honesty card. Bruh, let's sit down over water. Like yesterday said, let's sit down over water. Bros, tell us what the situation is. If the guy cannot honestly tell you what the situation is, then it is grounds for termination. It is grounds for termination. Now, of course, I'm not going to say that I should just go guns blazing and say, you're not be honest. But, but of course, maturity and being able to read what the situation is really, really saying sometimes helps. Because some guys, for example, may not really know how to express their feelings, which I feel is still a maturity issue. But, some people don't really know how to express their feelings, and they need a little bit of guidance to be able to come into that. And then these are all of the balances that we have to play with respect to that issue.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Just wow. Like, those were really good points. And I think I'll just add to this by saying all of what you guys said, by saying, don't let anybody waste your time, whether you're a female or male. Because we know some females who tend to play the cards as well, where they double date or serial dating while they're still holding on to a man. Across sides, please don't let anybody waste your time. And while we're still talking about, call it quits, your relationship better. You always have that. I hope you still have that gepetto, like your using of conscience, telling you this is not it. If you have that ringing, then have that conversation. I think a lot of us in relationships, we don't talk about what we want. We feel like voicing our concerns will make us look desperate. But why would you want to be in a place where you don't even feel like your opinion will be heard? Now, there could be reasons why a guy might delay proposing to you, but as long as you guys are good and you have that conversation and there's honesty involved, I don't see why anybody else saying anything should, matter to you. But if you haven't had that conversation and there's no honesty, then you decide what you need to do. And I'll also add into what I think on the comment section is, as women get older and then we get more established in our profession, our list really gets, I guess I won't say list, our standards get higher. You don't want to what you call settle or date down. And the truth of the matter is that those kind of men that we might want might not really be there, because what's that thing of average, right? It's one of the reasons why, even though I don't like the way he talks and I don't agree with a lot of his points, I think Kevin Samuels, given the traction he's gaining, he makes some good points about knowing what statistics show. Like 10% of men only make 100 six-figure salary and above, but an overwhelming number of women, they always want the top 10 men. And dating apps have made it in such a way that we all want the best, so when you put out your whatever idea, you're kind of like swiping left, right, and like, I don't want this person, I don't want this person. So having an honest conversation as to what you really, really want and what's available out there, because truth of the matter is the kind of man you want might not really be out there right now. And depending on where you're living, if you live in one boondocks like Oklahoma, versus living in a cosmopolitan city like LA, or what parts of Nigeria you might be living in, the kind of job, the kind of circles you interact with. So you probably need to make some drastic moves to get what you want. As far as, I'm not saying you should settle down, but ask yourself why you really want what you want. Is it just a fantasy, or do you really think that this is really, really what you want? And you're not just society dictating to you. The final question I would like to ask, and we're rounding off with this, to be, let's talk about regrets. And again, I'll put myself on the chopping block. If I'll go back and do things differently, I wish someone had told me that, prioritizing my career over family life will come at a cost. I mean, I kind of regret, even though it's not really much of a regret, because I don't think I will have done anything differently anyways. Perhaps I will have slowed down a little bit, But nobody really told me that when you start a fire in an engine and you're going, full, throttle, some things have to be sacrificed. Like, you can't eat your cake and have it. So take, for example, I had a chance to get married when I was 23 or so, but I didn't want to get married then. And so I had to wait 2 more years, and then smack that before then, you know, I had to undergo surgery because I had ovarian cyst. And I remember the doctor telling me that you need to get married in time and start having kids. And I told him, no, I'm not ready. Like, I just felt it was going to be a desperate issue. Even though I had, my boyfriend who I'm married to right now, telling me to, like, we should just go ahead and, get married. But I told him, no, I wasn't ready. And I think I missed that window because even when I came to grad school to the US, came to grad school, and this is me just being personal because I feel like we need to talk about the choices we make sometimes and how a lot of the choices we make are not necessarily things we really want to do, but I think it's some of the societal pressure on, being something, And so coming to the US, going to grad school, I told my husband then I'm gonna wait, 3-4 years before we start having kids because I want to get to a point to my PhD program and all of that up until now. So I think I definitely missed what I call like the prime fertility window because if we had done things then we're supposed to do it, we probably would have had kids by now. So all of that to say, it's a soft regret of mine, but and what we're trying to do right now is to buy lost time, which as you've been following the show, if you know a lot of my story, we've done IVF, we've had pregnancy losses. It's been quite difficult. So along that line, and I put myself, in this. I'm talking about my story right now because I like for us to get a little bit vulnerable, even as we wind down this session. Is I think for women especially, you go to college, you get a degree, you start working. Before you know it, you're like, what, 30 something, and you look around, you're like, oh, I've spent all my years, trying to amass to this level of professionalism. The kind of men I want, they're not even in my bracket of options. So what regret would you say you guys have? Let's start with the ladies first. Akim probably might not have a regret because he's privileged as a man in that regard, but I'll still give him the opportunity to answer the question. So Yinka and Gerard, just having said that, what kind of regret would you say you have? Not necessarily because of the choices you made, but the choices you thought you had to make based on what society had told you about, that sense of becoming.
Yeah, for me, right? Okay, so while you were talking, I could think of, all right. So I'm still here.
We can hear you. Don't
you know
worry.
what happened, right?
Power outage. For those that are not Nigerian,
Yes,
this
power
is normal.
outage. So
They
sorry.
haven't kidnapped her and put her sack on her head. Even though,
I'm still here, anyways. Yeah. Okay. So, thinking back now, I can think of 3 things. Yeah. Number 1 is ask myself maybe, oh, yay, it's back. All right. I can think of 3 things. One is that I I think maybe I should have started dating really early. I was really focused on, getting through pharmacy school. I didn't really want to date anyone until maybe I was in like final year. And I just wanted to focus on doing that. So I think, it would have helped me, have some practice at least to some extent. Then the second regret that pops up is after that first relationship I said I had, and that he came and said he was seeing his ex, I stayed on the ice for like 2 years because I just had to deal. I needed to get to that point where, I could move on without transferring the baggage to someone else. So it took me about 2 years to get to that, to start dating all over again. So that's for me, yes. And then third thing is I put everything on hold because I thought, oh, you're going to get married soon, and then when you get married, you would move on with the rest of your career. And now moving on with the rest of my career, and everyone is saying, oh, don't you think you should get married? I'm like, hold it, just hold it. That advice is not going to work anymore. I waited and nothing happened. So right now I'm doing me, I'm loving this, and I'm moving ahead. Anything that comes, we deal with it. But yeah, so those are 3 things that really pop up in my head when I think about regrets. Yeah. So
thank you for that. Thank you for that. Gerard, do you have any?
Yeah. Okay, number 1 regret. My disposition was not so I gained admission so late to university, and I guess I allowed that to get to me so much that I didn't even, my conduct, my disposition to people, the way I carry my carriage, it kind of, I don't have time for that now. I want to be focused on my studies, So I think I had that. Then there were times I think I over spiritualized things. I've had guys that really liked me, as in they really liked me. But I felt, this one does not want to pay tithes. When we are married, things that you could just talk about, I allowed so much of that. Then I used to have this mindset that I'm a child of God. The man that will marry me should see me and come to me. I didn't believe in matchmaking. I didn't believe in you introducing someone to me, because there were family friends that introduced people to me, and I just ignored. I didn't give it attention. I didn't consider it until I read about Boaz and Ruth, and this is by because Ruth was introduced to Boaz by Naomi. So I think those were some of my regrets, that I would like to share. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Akin, last but definitely not the least.
Well, yeah, like you correctly said, I don't have I'm sorry, I'm just
We like that you balance out our conversations and desperation. Thank you so much.
Okay, so do I have any regrets? There are some things that I wish okay, one thing that many guys don't have is solid male mentoring. That is one thing that many guys lack. And I tell people that there are three things a guy that will take a guy out of his house. One, the search for pleasure. Two, the search for responsibility. And three, the search for mentorship. And that third one about mentoring and guys is something that I wish that I had, a community of well-founded, Christian, hopefully, Christian men that could answer some of these questions. Because many a times, us guys, we're just left to figure it out. And then we're supposed to just make the decision, bam, like that. And sometimes guys, we are so concerned about making the wrong decision a lot that we end up not doing anything. We don't do anything. We get paralyzed by the analysis, and then we just keep saying maybe not, maybe not, maybe not. And then it just ends up, leading to, and one day you just realize, you wake up and then you're like 35, 36, 37, you still not made a decision, and that kind of thing. Another thing is that many guys, at least I think I'm fortunate for me to be aware of the mathematics involved. And I guess many people haven't even really thought about the math. Like, when do you want to retire? And how many kids do you want to have to put in college when you're retiring? Let me give you an example. If you want to retire at the age of 60, and you want to start taking your first child, who may be 18, to college, that means 60 minus 18, 42. You have to be married. You have to have your first child before you're 42. So if you are going to be dating the sister for maybe 1 or 2, you see how like walking backwards kind of like helps you know how to prioritize the level of intensity involved. Because sometimes, like Linka correctly said, she said there was a situation, that, she got hurt and her feelings and everything. And then she was like, I'm just going to put myself on ice for this also amount of years. Guys also do it too. I personally, I was, burned by, a relationship. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to be, but sometimes you're just going to have to, make that intention such that we know what we want. There are setbacks. There are always going to be setbacks. We're just going to keep going because we have goals. depending. And I think that could be a very good motivating factor for those, who feel that they have all of the time in the world. And yeah, take your time based on what it is that works for you, but just also make sure that you have a goal that you are setting towards. If not, one day you'll just realize that, you are 65 and then the child is asking for school fees while the child is in college. And then, many of us, especially us millennials, many of us faced that kind of situation where we'll be asking daddy for school fees. And well, you know what I mean? So those kind of goals will also help us set our mind straight. And I'm just grateful that, at my young age, at least I can think as progressively as this, but not very many men are. And for the who mentioned about the ego thing, that is true. I'm just gonna say it. Many guys do not want to admit it, but there is some ego going on with this, and I don't know if I'm a good representative of the men, Mo, but I'm just gonna admit it. There is some ego in this, and I'm just gonna say it like it is. Thank you.
All right. Before I give my final remarks, I just want to ask this question, which is, how do you find the right people that you want? And I can, again, in a few words, over to you. I know during the episode we had with you on the show, you talked about how women need to develop more interest. You can't find a man going to church all the time because, as we know now, the church is no longer safe. Someone said the church is like a hospital. Everybody's receiving treatment, but not everybody's responding to treatment. So be careful who you find there. How can women position themselves like Boaz, to find, Ruth, to find a Boaz? Where can we find good guys?
Well, I don't think there is going to be some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. I think, like I said, interest is going to be the thing. You're going to have to develop interests. How do you know a person is interesting? Simple. The person has interests. That's how you are interesting. So if you don't have interest, you're not interested. And so it is your interests that will lead you to pursue things that allows you to meet other people. In fact, the reason why I get to meet these wonderful panelists, Jirade and Yinka, is because I have interests. The reason why I get to meet you is because I have interests. And then we share these interests. And that's how I get to meet all these people, and everything. Tinder. Kenneth says Tinder.
I heard that's the worst place to go right now. Maybe just, you know what? Again, interest.
But yeah, I don't think there's any pot of gold anywhere. I think just developing interests and literally just realizing that, Prince Charming is just not going to, after praying and fasting for 40 days and 40 nights, just knock on your door and say, "Hi, I am the husband you prayed for. Here I am." It's not going to happen. I'm sorry. It doesn't happen like that.
Yeah.
I just want to apologize.
No, I agree with what you said. I think I heard that even when Dr. Shonaki, my husband, talked about during the last episode is give yourself an opportunity to be surprised by somebody. When they say go to places you don't normally go, not like put yourself in harm's way, but go do things that maybe you're like, I'm gonna try. I try everything new twice. First time for the novelty of it. Second time to really say, do I like it? Maybe take up pottery or Toastmasters. Now that everything is opening back up unlike before, and people are no longer doing online dating, just maybe even travel. Pick a hobby. Pick something that even you want to try, not because you're trying to find a man, but you never just know. So just want to put that out there. And then someone, I think Dr. Ozu was asking, can a woman propose? I don't see a problem with that. Who's gonna know who proposed the what? As long as it's a ring on your finger, just make sure he puts the ring on your finger and you get the yes from him before that ring enters your finger. You do you, baby. If your relationship works that way, why not? Nobody has to know. You can maybe save the later story later for your 30th year anniversary, how I met your mother or how your mother proposed to me. Well, so these are just want to say thank you to all the panelists. Just some final thoughts would be this is I think women, I want to talk to my ladies first is I see you going for what you want. I see you, going through college, maybe getting a master's, getting a second master's, getting a PhD degree. Is remember that our biological clock, mine is ticking at the back like that tornado fan. You can't have everything, and I think we've been sold a lie where you can have everything, but you have to prioritize whatever you've chosen as your priority. Remember that you can, it's lost of, it's opportunity cost, right? You can't start moaning about the things you gave up. So if having a family is important to you, then put that first. Career can always come, and I think that the older we get, the more we start focusing on career, we become a little bit harder. I'm definitely not as soft as I was when I was, in my dating years, because career has just made me, I'm tougher now, right? And this is me even still being married, and I have to like scale down and be a lot less masculine. So how much more if you are, kind of like me, but you're still trying to position yourself to be married, is I hope those that are listening in their younger age is, it's okay to go for marriage if that's what you want. And I think then focusing on marriage, you were told that you didn't have a lot of ambition if that's all you wanted to do. As a matter of fact, I remember a friend of mine who had come to visit me when we were 17. She told me she was getting married the next year when she turned 18. And I looked at her like she was the craziest person. And now she's, she's doing very well as a nurse. She has like 4 boys. She got married at 18. I just looked at her like someone that lacked ambition, but that was what she wanted. Being a mom and a wife was super important to her. For me, I just looked at her like, you're crazy. Like, I'm not even anywhere near a guy right now. And you want to get married at 18? Yeah, they're still together. She's still with her husband, doing great things. So just prioritize what you want. And it's okay to go for what you want. But always ask yourself, is this what I want, or what society is dictating for me? And I contrast us as blacks, because most of us here, Africans or blacks, to like Caucasians or even Hispanics. They get it right at 20s, 17, like sorry, 20, 21, they're already married. By 30, they've given birth to all their kids. So what are we not getting right? Have we suffered so much as a group that we prioritize, education, education, education? And I say that humbly as someone that really loves it. If you know me, you know I'm very big on education. Heck, I still work in a university, and I have gone to the highest level of my education. But I go back and I see that, I wish I had done things a little bit differently, because I've spoken to a lot of my friends who are much older and even way more advanced than I am. They're super lonely. I'm not gonna lie to you. There's so much loneliness. I have a friend who works in a very prestigious university as a professor of medicine. You look at her, she's doing great things in her research. But sometimes when we have a conversation, there's so much regret there, because it's hard for her right now to find the kind of guy she wants. So prioritize what you want, okay? And but make sure that you know that whatever you want, you're gonna lose other things. So you can't have it all. That's just a lie. And so for me, what I'll do differently when I have kids is to let my kids know it's okay. You want to get married early, we can help you get that. Like no shaming, no, you can do everything you want to do, but this one thing you want to start with, let's focus on that. So I'll be more frank and more realistic with my kids about what it takes to be either you boy or a girl, what it takes to be married or find somebody. And yeah, and especially for women, our fertility window is so narrow. And if you have complications like people like me, it adds another layer of variable to that game that is beyond your control. And it's not for the lack of trying. It's just the older you get. I mean, I'm gonna turn 35 this year. And if anybody knows, 35 is that age where they say your eggs just go boom, like there's a close down like that cliff. So my birthday this year will be a totally different birthday. So keep me in your prayers. It might come with a lot of, reflection. But I'm just still thankful for the life I have amassed so far. But I just want to talk about this frankly, that we can't have it all, and we've been so delayed in some areas, but there's a lot of grace. And so I wish you all the best in your journey, whether you're single, married, kids, no kids, or even the new moms. Hi, Ozzy, out there. Just want to say, whatever you find, whatever stage you're in right now, still think about ways to keep making yourselves better. And at the end of the day, I do wish, great things for all of us. And I want to say thank you to everybody who's been a part of this conversation. The chat, room has been so, active with so many chats. And the special announcement I have is this. I have launched, as at this moment, a page on my website. It's called Get Matched with More. It's not a dating website, it's a matchmaking website. You go on there, you fill in your information, and my team and I are going to come up with potential matches for you, and we'll do like a long interview to kind of determine what you really want, get to the crux of your need. For now, it's free, so you don't pay for that. If you're interested in being a part of it, just go out there and just fill out the form, and then we'll get back with you. And you, as you know, we can't have just females filling the form, so males as well, go fill it out so you can play with people. And I have wonderful friends that are single and are amazing, and it's an opportunity for me to introduce them to the world. And hopefully we can get some magic happening. Perhaps the next panel we'll have is how I got matched with more. So that's my idea. Yeah, I'm a match. I think I have that gift, even though I can say that I haven't been my husband is also very good at that. So we're definitely working on this together. So go fill that out, and we can go from there. So thank you, everybody. Stay safe, and thank you, Yinka. Thank you, Aki. Thank you, Mojirade. And yes, all right, guys.
Welcome.
Bye for now. And this has been the More Sibyl podcast. I remain your host, More Sibyl. Kamsahamnida.
Bye.
All right, bye.
Hey, everyone.